to me today. I am Denise Grimsley. I'm a fifth-generation Floridian, born and raised in the middle part of the state that we call Florida's heartland. It's right between both coasts, right in the middle, north of Lake Okeechobee, but south of Orlando. It's the heart of agriculture.
Can you slow down? You're talking too fast.
I'm trying to get my 2 minutes in. But yes. So, born and raised in the middle part of the state, in Florida's heartland, right halfway between both coasts, north of Lake Okeechobee, south of Orlando. I'm a nurse by training. I nursed for 17 years. And then my dad got sick, and when he did, I left my job as a nurse to run our family business. We are in the citrus business. We have cattle. We also had 10 convenience stores at the time, and we were a petroleum distributor servicing agriculture and commercial accounts. And I did that job for 10 years, and in the 10-year window of time, I realized how state government impacted my day-to-day life, and I didn't like the way I got treated in Tallahassee the first time I went up there. First time I walked into a state representative's office, he had his back to me working on the computer the whole time I was carrying on a conversation with him. I didn't like that. So in 2004, I had the opportunity to sell our business, and we did. We still have our citrus and cattle, but we sold our retail division. And I ran for office, and I've been in the legislature for 14 years. And I've worked on things that are important to rural areas, important to business, and also important to agriculture. And prior to my election, I started looking for candidates to run that I felt like were interested in all those issues, but also had some common sense. And I've been there 14 years, and really started thinking about the fact that 8 years in the House, 6 years in the Senate, it's probably time for me to move on. I've done exactly what I went up to accomplish, and that was to deal with business issues and make it a more business-friendly state. Governor Scott coming in made it a little bit easier to get some of those policies and tax reductions passed, and was ready to go home to the point that I sold my house in Tallahassee. And then I sat down with some fellow citrus growers of mine talking about the Commissioner of Agriculture, and we actually had a candidate we were going to support to run, and he decided not to run. So I looked for a candidate with 3 qualifications. First and foremost, a background in agriculture, which I have. Second, and very, very important, is an executive experience to run an agency that large. There are 3,800 employees. It is a $1.7 billion budget. In 2006, I went back into healthcare, and I'm now a hospital administrator. And the third thing is a background in finance, both the public sector and in the private. I believe you need to understand the private sector side. You should have made a payroll in your life. You also need to understand the cyclical nature of agriculture, and on the public side, understand how federal dollars, when they come down, how they work, understand the state trust funds within the department, and also understand how it gets to the end use, but most importantly, where to look for fraud. And so I didn't find that candidate, so I decided to run myself. Been doing it for almost 18 months now. And I'm excited about this election. Qualifying happened yesterday, and it's a 4-way primary. And I'm here today to answer your questions and earn your vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. I neglected to say the lady standing to my left, Kirsten, she's our
I was
timekeeper.
I didn't know where the timekeeper was.
You were good, okay.
So if you see the red come up, that
Okay.
means.
Good job, too.
Thank you.
And actually, I usually give a little warning, the yellow is
Okay.
caution light, red is stop.
Oh,
for all
that's
the other
great.
candidates.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, what are your top 3 goals as Florida's Ag Commissioner?
I don't know that I just have 3, just 3 in general, but I'm gonna talk about several things. You know, one of the things, I'm gonna veer off of agriculture for a minute, because it's also the chief consumer advocate in the state of Florida. It is the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So I believe that the commissioner is the chief consumer advocate for each and every one of you. And the department deals with a wide variety of things, from pest control, security guards, pumping your gas at the station, when you get food service, when you buy coffee at a convenience store or a local establishment of some kind. That's who the Commissioner of Agriculture is, and that's what we do. But I want to talk to you about one thing that touches every single one of you in here, and that is the do not call list. You think it works?
No.
It doesn't work, and I started nosing around trying to figure out why that is, and I realized that the carriers didn't have the legal authority to block those calls. That are coming into your phone with local numbers. They're coming from overseas. So I just passed a piece of legislation that gives them that legal authority to do so. It goes into effect in July. But make no mistake about it, that along with skimmers and the gas pumps and everything else, these guys are going to try to get around that technology, and the commissioner's got to be solely focused on that. Making it a farmer-friendly state. I have a rural plan on my website, which I know I don't have time to talk about all of it today, but I'd ask you to look at it. And why the rural plan? The commissioner should be the chief rural advocate because that is where our agriculture is. And finally, water policy is gonna be extremely important in the next few years.
Thank you. You've eliminated question 9 because that was one of my questions about the do not call. Please list 3 things you will support cutting from the commissioner's budget.
I don't know about 3 things specifically. What I will tell you about the department, and it goes back to having executive experience and leadership experience, and that is to be able to go in on day one with the experience to go in to look at every single division of the department, which there are about 18 of them, look for duplicative efforts with other agencies. What can we do to change? How do we streamline the efficiency? The one thing the commissioner does need to be doing is calling that 1-800 complaint line on a regular basis. So I know how you get treated when you interact with the department. Because again, as a citizen, I didn't like the way I got treated, not just by the legislature, but I didn't like the way I got treated by state agencies, and I didn't like them wasting my time. The one thing I do think we should do is, which will do some efficiencies within state government, is co-locate some of our agriculture water policy employees with water management districts. So the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. I don't want to merge the departments, but what I want to do is be able to be in the same office. So we are collaborating with each other and we're not doing duplicative efforts. That long-term saves you money, but as a leader of the organization, it's imperative that I go in and do a deep dive in every area and see who is duplicating work. How do we run the department more efficiently? Coming from the private sector, I know what I do at the hospital, I'll do the same thing within the department.
Thank you. Are there any areas under your control as a commissioner that you'll make more transparent and user-friendly?
I think that we have the ability to utilize the webpage, number one, more than we do. However, I don't think anybody in here wakes up every morning and says, oh, I'm gonna go check the Department of Agriculture's website. So let's see what's growing fresh in Florida today. So I think it's incumbent upon the commissioner and the deputies within the department to be out in the communities, like the Rotaries and the Kiwanis and the church groups and the homeowners associations, talking about what the department's doing. For example, you may or may not even know about this. There's a farm-to-school program that takes fresh fruits and vegetables to your local school districts, and you say, well, I don't have kids, why do I care about that? You care about that because you want to make sure that these kids are being fed nutritionally while they're being educated, because we want them to learn, because they'll either grow up to be taxpayers and productive members of society, or they'll be takers off the system. I want them to make a paycheck, and I want them to put back into the community. You may or may not know what's going on with the skimmers on the gas pumps. There's a whole agricultural law division that focuses on that and pest and diseases. You may not know that. And I think that each and every one of you are taxpayers, and you deserve to know what's going on within the department. Because what I'll tell you, I'm gonna run over my time, but on down the road, I'm gonna talk about the Young Farmers and Ranchers program. Those guys, those young people just gave me some ideas for that program within the department because I don't walk in your shoes every day. I need to hear what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, and that's how you make it more transparent, by being with the people.
Thank you. As a current senator, what are your proudest accomplishments?
I think that do not call list legislation is one of my proudest ones, because I'll tell you, Elizabeth called me 4 times a day. She's a robocaller trying to sell me vacation plans, and I got sick and tired of her, and I'm determined to get her one way or the other. If this legislation doesn't do it, we're going to find a way. I also did a piece of legislation a few years ago that dealt with nursing schools, because in government, this is what happens sometimes. The Board of Nursing was blocking new schools from opening up for crazy things like they didn't like the color of the paint on the wall, so they would deny the new school opening or delay it. And that particular year, we had 30,000 nursing applicants that were turned away. And I feel it as I grow older, but I'm also in healthcare. We have a nursing shortage in this state, and so what I did was I took the legal authority away from the board and put it back with the legislature for a period of years, and told them exactly how they were going to approve schools until they got it right. And they're doing a good job now, so we've gradually given them their authority back.
Thank you. The opposite side of the coin. As a senator, what did you want to see accomplished, but for whatever reason, never happened?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question.
Want me to save it for last?
Yeah. Let me think about that.
And they said my questions were too elementary. Will you go over your stance on clemency and felony rights restoration?
I think, I'm gonna preface that by saying we are at an all-time low on a crime rate. We are that way because of our policies in the state of Florida. I do think if you've served your time and you're back to where you should be in society, you should get your rights back, but we have to be careful about that, very careful. I'm very hesitant to loosen up any of those laws.
Will you support any changes to someone securing a concealed gun permit?
I don't know that we need any change. It runs very efficiently right now. It's, my dad is 80 years old. He just got his concealed weapons permit and he got it like in 10 days. The only thing I would say that we would do, one thing we do, this is from the legislature side, is we make sure that that trust fund the money never comes out of it, so we have enough money. So if the tax collector is in the tax collector's office now, so if the tax collector needs to open up a new station or they want to put it in a satellite office, we can get it done quickly. So I think the main thing is just continuing to evaluate the efficiencies and the way it's working, and let's keep on trying to make it even more efficient.
Right. This is the last one. And a lot of us weren't privy to this, but the Commissioner of Agriculture has a tremendous amount of responsibility. I mean, it's amazing when you research this, like I did for the questions, all the things, and this is one that's the last one. I believe the elevator inspections are also the Ag Commissioner's responsibility.
No, Department of Business and Professional Regulation.
Okay, I thought, I was staying corrected then.
It may have used to have been there, but I don't think it is now. Not to my knowledge, it's still at DBPR.
Okay, and as a contractor, I've dealt with them enough to know that.
I know when I get my elevator permit, I get it from DBPR.
Okay.
Hospital.
I was of the impression it wasn't, so with that being said, if you want to go back on that last question about ones that you would like to have seen happen.
I will.
And after that, if you'll give us your closing comments.
Okay.
And
So I think the one thing was actually this past legislative session, I'm gonna dovetail it into the Department of Agriculture because it impacts it, and it's one of my priorities as well, and that's keeping young people interested in farming. I just passed a piece of legislation called the Young Farmer and Rancher Grant Program, designed to create a matching grant dollar for dollar for young people 18 to 35 in order for them to get started in agriculture. Because if you're in the agriculture sector and you have a family and you can inherit the land, then you can pretty much easily keep farming. But if not, if you're a FFA student and you want to get into farming, it's almost impossible to be able to get the capital to do so. So it's a small program, but it gives them the ability to buy a tractor, put a down payment on land. But we lost the funding at the end of the cycle because of the Parkland shooting, and all the money got swept away. So but the framework is there, and so as commissioner, I want to come back and work on that. It also creates a clearinghouse within the department's website that has other scholarships and grants from the private sector that are available to people who want to get into farming. For example, the nursery growers have scholarship opportunities, so those would go on the website. And the third thing it did was created a advisory task force to the commissioner from young people 18 to 35. So that's just passed. It's in the process of being put in place. I want to spend a lot of time with FFA students, Future Farmers of America, and the 4-H students, because those programs are teaching our kids soft skills like interviewing for a job and filling out a credit application, an employment application. It teaches them they have to show up to work 5 days a week and they have to be on time. They don't get to just pick and choose what they do. My parents taught me that, but a lot of these kids, my daughter's a school teacher, some of these kids don't even have parents today. So we want to make sure that they're productive members of society. And the one thing that was actually suggested to me by one of the young people that is interested in being on the advisory task force is he said, why don't you create a mentor program? Use your website. He said, do it like a dating website. Put a farmer on there that with certain interests in certain areas with a student who has the same interest, and let them do a mentorship program. That doesn't cost the state any money. That teaches the kids how to do things other besides planting and harvesting, but it also teaches them business plans, and they've got somebody to look up to if they don't have a family member. That was just in time.
That's right, good time.
Thank you so much.